So how would you feel about me telling people that I'm single because we go together? I'm not laughing.
Yo, hold on.
In a world where power often drowns out the truth, Lil Scrappy's voice cut through like thunder on a clear day. For years, the story swirled allegations, whispers, eerie rumors about Sean Diddy Combs and his infamous parties. But they were just the rumors until now, because Scrappy, wide-eyed and unapologetic, stepped into the storm and said what others were too afraid to utter. Bro, it's all coming out now. All the truth is there. The weight of those words didn't fully register until he kept talking. His tone, disbelief wrapped in conviction. This wasn't idle gossip. This was someone who had seen behind the curtain and couldn't unsee what was there. What started as a casual discussion spiraled into one of the most explosive testimonies tied to the unraveling of Diddy's billion-dollar legacy. Scrappy had no intention of staying quiet. He didn't hold back, he didn't sugarcoat, and he didn't stutter. Instead, he exposed what he described as twisted games of the elite cloaked behind velvet ropes and champagne towers. He wasn't just another bystander. He'd been in the rooms, not the darkest ones but close enough to feel the chill. I was conflicted, Scrappy admitted, echoing how many felt. You want to believe innocent until proven guilty, right? But man, some of the stuff I seen, it don't sit right. He brought up the 1,000 bottles of baby oil allegedly discovered during a federal raid on Diddy's home. The media laughed. They turned it into a punchline. But Scrappy wasn't laughing. What the F asterisk they got to do with the criminal part of it? Asterisk asterisk then, his voice dropped. It was no longer just commentary, it was a warning. They not saying what's in the baby oil. I heard ... I heard that S asterisk 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 got something in it. Something they pour in your drink, make you forget S asterisk 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 ... double quotes. Suddenly, the pieces began to align. The stories, the rumors, they weren't so far-fetched anymore. To drive the point home, Scrappy referenced a movie Blink Twice, a fictional tale about a rich man who lures women to an island, seduces them with luxury, and slowly traps them in a drug-fueled nightmare. The parallels to the whispers surrounding Diddy were eerie, too specific, too familiar. These girls thought they were going for a weekend. He said they were there for months, trapped. And then came his own brush with the darkness. In 2018, Lil Scrappy attended a New Year's Eve party at Diddy's Miami mansion, the same one that would later be raided. He described it as electric, the energy, wild, the guest list, elite, but something didn't feel right. I didn't go into the inner rooms, he confessed. Not because I wasn't invited ... but because it just didn't feel right. He hung back, stayed near the buzz of the crowd. But by 3 a.m., he dipped. Assumed the night was done. It wasn't. By 9 a.m., he was still getting calls. Bro, what the F asterisk you still doing at another man's house at 9 o'clock in the morning? Asterisk asterisk, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. It wasn't just a party anymore. In hindsight, it felt ... sinister. And the deeper Scrappy looked, the more he saw. The obsession with kink, the so-called freak-off, but this wasn't typical celebrity wildness. This wasn't just some rich folks blowing off steam. This was darker, sicker, I like freaky S asterisk, but not kinky S asterisk asterisk asterisk. Not that kinda kinky. Asterisk asterisk, he clarified. What was being whispered wasn't freaky, it was deviant. It was manipulative. It was evil cloaked in wealth and status. And here's the part that left listeners breathless. Everybody be quiet about it. But everybody was there. A-listers, influencers, executives, household names. Everyone rubbed shoulders at these events. Everyone had stories, but nobody dared speak. Not on record. They want to keep the lie alive. They don't want to admit the truth. But then came the video. Cassie, visibly shaken, caught on camera in a moment no one could deny. That was Scrappy's breaking point. I need to see evidence. Bro, I ain't just gonna jump on the bandwagon. But once I saw that Cassie video, nah, that was it. He paused, voice cracking. I got daughters, bro. I don't play with that kinda s.***, and that's when the story turned dangerous. Almost. Overnight, reports began to surface. Not about Diddy, but about Scrappy. A judge signed off on warrants tied to him supposedly on unrelated charges. But the timing, chilling. He had exposed too much. Had said too much. They coming for anybody who talks. One insider whispered Scrappy's words, once dismissed, were now considered volatile. Too honest, too close to the truth. He had unknowingly unlocked doors the industry wanted to keep shut. Because this wasn't just about Diddy anymore. This was about a whole system, one that ran on silence, secrets, and status. He called out. The hypocrisy are, Kelly did what Hugh Hefner did, but look how it turned out. One dies an old man in a mansion with twin girlfriends. The other locked away forever, same actions. Different skin, and then ... the shift, Scrappy went deeper. Then legalities, he spoke from a place spiritual. Biblical even, this all in the Bible, man. In the end times, what's wrong gonna be right? What's right gonna be wrong? They gonna persecute you if you don't roll their way. He knew the risk. He knew how this would play out. The media would twist his words, spin his truth, call him crazy, unstable, bitter, but he didn't care. I ain't scared. I just want truth, and truth is exactly what followed. The media firestorm came fast. Clips of his interview exploded across timelines, then disappeared. Blogs took them down. Headlines questioned his sanity, but others. They called him brave, real, a man finally saying what others were too afraid to. Meanwhile, the Diddy trial ballooned. Bigger than anything since OJ. More victims stepped forward. More subpoenas were issued. And somehow, always, Lil Scrappy's name kept resurfacing. A witness. A whistleblower, a problem. Because when you tell the truth in an empire built on lies, you become a threat. What started as a party had turned into something much more, a maze of secrets, druggings, control, and silence. And now the world was watching. Would Lil Scrappy be the voice that unraveled it all? Or would the machine swallow him next? Lil Scrappy had opened a floodgate, and now the current was dragging him in. What started as a personal recollection had evolved into a full-blown reckoning. Scrappy's name wasn't just circulating in hip-hop circles anymore. It was echoing through courtrooms, whispered behind closed boardroom doors, and dissected on national media. But instead of being celebrated for his courage, he was being watched, dissected, and according to some targeted. The timing of those warrants. Too convenient, one industry insider muttered. He spoke, and suddenly they're knocking on his door. That's not coincidence, that's control. What was positioned in the press as an unrelated investigation felt, to many, like a warning shot. Not just to Scrappy, but to anyone else thinking about breaking their silence. The message was clear. Tell too much truth, and the system will come for you next. Behind the scenes, paranoia was rising. Some of Diddy's old associates started falling silent. Others quietly cleaned their social media. The era of open loyalty was over. Because with every new revelation, every reposted clip, every quote from Scrappy, the illusion of untouchable celebrity power started to fracture. And Scrappy, he wasn't backing down. Not even as blogs labeled him unhinged, not even as lawyers issued quiet threats, not even as industry calls suddenly stopped coming. In fact, he leaned in deeper. There's more, he warned in another interview. This ain't just about parties, it's about power. It's about what you do with it when nobody's watching. He described how some people in the business would do anything to belong. Sell out morals, ignore warning signs, just to stay in the room, and in that room. Rules didn't apply. Consent was blurry. Reality was drugged. It wasn't freaky, it was demonic, bro. The term hung heavy. He didn't say it for shock value, he said it with the exhausted conviction of someone who had finally connected the dots. He pointed to the shift in the music industry, the rise of dark luxury, where opulence was a mask for depravity. The normal had become boring. The outrageous had become currency. There's levels to it. The freak-offs, they were just the gateway. The real stuff, what people ain't ready to hear, that happens when the cameras are gone. When your phone's locked away and the drinks hit different. He paused. Y'all ever wonder why half the people in them circles don't remember half the night? That ain't no accident. That's by design. And with that, more stories started surfacing. Quiet posts, anonymous leaks. Women, some previously silent, began hinting at experiences that mirrored what Scrappy described: lost time, altered memories, lavish homes that felt more like gilded cages. The federal case against Diddy intensified. Investigators started cross-checking old evidence with new testimonies. Scrappy's account had become more than a media moment. It was now a data point in an expanding criminal web. But while the government's eyes turned toward Diddy, Scrappy was watching his own back. He started getting shadow banned online. Certain podcast clips disappeared without notice. A platform removed one of his interviews, citing misinformation, despite it being a first-hand account. His team received anonymous calls, some simply heavy breathing, others voicing veiled threats. Still, he refused to be silenced. If they come for me, they better come right. I don't run. I ain't scared of no industry. I'm scared of God. That's it. It was clear this wasn't just about one man exposing another. This was about a man stepping into a war against a system that had thrived off silence. And unlike most, he wasn't hiding behind NDAs or publicists. He was speaking plainly, passionately, and without filters. He called out the industry enablers, the executives, producers, influencers who had looked the other way for years. The ones who whispered that's just how the game works whenever someone tried to speak up. The ones who normalized trauma because it came with a VIP wristband. Y'all protected monsters cause they cut you a check. And now the monsters are coming for you. The reactions were mixed. Some in hip-hop distanced themselves, others stood in quiet solidarity. A few spoke up, confirming the culture of secrecy, but stopping short of naming names. But one thing was certain: Lil Scrappy had done what few dared. He'd put his own reputation, safety, and career on the line to speak a truth he couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team was scrambling. Rumors swirled that more videos existed, underground footage, encrypted drives, NDAs being challenged in court. The feds were building something, and insiders said it could be massive. Through all this, Scrappy never claimed to be perfect. He never painted himself as a saint. In fact, he admitted his own flaws. I ain't saying I ain't done dirt. But there's a line. And when I saw what that man did to Cassie, that was the line. He brought up his daughters again. I'm raising girls, bro. I can't stay quiet and watch this cycle keep going. Not with my blood in the world. And with that, a new wave of fans emerged. Not just followers of his music, but people who saw him as a symbol. A man finally standing up in a world where fame often buys silence. The public began demanding more accountability. Petition after petition hit the internet. Celebrities were forced to address old affiliations. People who once called Diddy a visionary now issued vague statements about reevaluating relationships. But the most powerful shift: victims, women and men who had been quiet for years, began reaching out, some through lawyers, others through encrypted DMs. What they shared aligned too closely with Scrappy's warnings to ignore. And slowly, the story changed. No longer was this just about party culture or eccentric behavior. This was about exploitation, systemic abuse. Silence funded by fear. Scrappy's interviews became harder to find. Some clips were pulled mid-viral. One major network reportedly canceled an upcoming segment after external pressure. Still, he found ways to speak. Pop-up podcasts, independent journalists, anonymous tip lines. He ended one of his last known interviews with this: "They gonna try to erase me. But you can't erase truth. Y'all know what you saw. You felt it. Don't gaslight yourselves cause the suit got $1 billion. They can't pay away everything. Not this time. And maybe he was right, because this wasn't just a tabloid scandal anymore. This was history unfolding. This was the empire cracking and standing at the center of the storm. Not a prosecutor, not a politician, but a Southern rapper who saw too much, stayed quiet too long, and finally had enough. A man named Lil Scrappy, no longer just an artist, but a witness, a threat, a truth bearer, and maybe, just maybe, the start of something bigger.